Well, Mr. Aristo, I guess it's 4:44 where you are. It's 9:44 on my end.
Well, your end matters. It's 9:43 where I am at this time, so it's good enough. In fact, the proper topic is going to start at 9:44. Here I'm going to just speak a few preliminaries. I hope our audience can hear me and that it's as clear as can be. We've been dealing with a lot of external events. Not we, I haven't been, but you've been dealing with a lot of external events.
Me?
Yeah. And I commend you for, now it's 4:44. I commend you for the way you've handled it and the fact that it is not a defeat to turn and fight another day. I don't believe people should sit back and throw other people to the lions without considering the implications, because you got to know this: people are not encouraged by martyrs. Not these days. People are discouraged by martyrs unless it gets out of hand and they know that they're going to be next. And that's what these people are. Oh, you're going to be next, you better do something. Look, what you got to do is stand back and understand what the other side is, get to know its weaknesses, get to know how to deal with it, because its weaknesses are very subtle. They're not going to be overt. You're not going to see them in the media unless you really read between the lines. So, and most people have not learned that yet. But I commend that you've learned a very valuable, you've not learned it, but basically you've applied it for the first time.
Well, I'm still learning. Lots of things.
But subtlety. These people are chess players, all of them. So, you know, that's the way they work. These people, we don't know who they are. Cabal, no cabal, that's just a name. But the people who want to program human beings are themselves into programming. They believe programming works, but they believe that it requires proper conditions. You can't just program anybody. When the so-called cabal abducts somebody and puts them in the dungeon to program them, they use torture. They don't just, you know, say, hello, we're the cabal and we're here to program you. It doesn't work. They use subtlety. They use lies and subterfuge. They use pleasure, pain, Pavlov, all of these things to break down a person's humanity. And humanity is founded on complexity. The complexity of the human psyche cannot be hacked. Only when it's oversimplified can it be hacked. So they are trying to simplify us. They are simplifying our culture. They're simplifying our vocabulary. Look at the Facebook, and oh, you can't say more than this. You know, it just, everybody gets headaches when somebody says too many things. And of course it's natural, and they have all the letters really tiny, so you have to strain your eyes to read, so you have to say a few words. Twitter only allows you to say so many words, and they used to have that limitation on YouTube, and they lifted it to see what difference it's going to make. Are people going to still abide by it, or do they have to be forced into shutting up? You know, it's just as much censorship of language when you force somebody to say an idea in a few words than it is to say it in no words. It's just a more subtle frame of transitionary conditioning. They don't go all the way. They take a little bit, they raise the volume up. The frog in the pail with the heat underneath. They raise the heat up a little bit, and then the water boils and the frog is dead without even realizing it's happened. We know these analogies. So in these videos, without being completely overt, and in a way that I feel, or hope at least, refers to common sense, I've been trying to convey some of my experience in dealing with human subtlety, because people, our advantage is that we are complex human beings. That is our advantage. We may be asleep or half asleep or not this or not that, but as long as we are awake to our own hearts, as long as we can feel that we have a heart's desire, and we're not just a fucking walking bundle of cliches and trendy aphorisms or whatever, as long as, or even the new age and the deep stuff, even deepness now is a cliche. Oh, what a deep person, what a whatever. And all these things. Oh, did you watch that video? How nice. Beware of videos. You know, a lot of them are very, very informative and all of this, but beware of relying on information from other people exclusively. Information is like food. You can't mainline it into your bloodstream to be nourished. You have to digest it first. So, and if you stop digesting and always want an IV needle, you're going to be really messed up, because somebody can always come and apply a little bit of poison into the little drip thing and do a lot of damage without you knowing it. So we need to be aware of many things, but I wanted to talk about something else today, because we've been talking about these exoteric things. We've been talking about the cabal and the society, and spirituality has only been mentioned in terms of religion or in terms of psychological factors like principles, which are also spiritual factors, of course. But it's all common sense, and it's an outward-oriented dynamic. And so, and I don't want to say we have to be only inward-oriented, but I want, my focus is on the bridge, on the link between outward and inward. That's where I stand. So if I feel that in all of these interactions on your side and the opinions of people and everything, that the stance goes too far in one direction, doesn't mean people have to act outwardly, but sometimes your consciousness is outwardly oriented. And that limits it, and you don't even realize you're limited, and then programming compensates. Now, if you stand right in the middle, you can only find where the middle is between outward-oriented consciousness and inward-oriented consciousness. There is no place for the programming to enter, because it's like working both your brain hemispheres. There is no place. If you only specialize into one side, the programming is going to mess with you on the other side. There's going to be coincidences and outward events that are going to try to program your inward vision or condition it or make you see things a certain way, like escapist ways. You know, a threat on the outside is going to increase the likelihood of escapism on the inside. Unless you're right at the middle, so you have your hands in both pies. I'm extending my hands right now, your hands in both pies, so you know that there are no foreign elements coming into your discernment, into your thinking. And of course, we need to be very, very careful of human behavior, body language, vocabulary, everything. Threat is not the only way we can be cajoled. There's such a thing as seduction. I used to think seduction was a good thing. I mean, hey, it makes you feel good. But
for a while.
For a while. That's the clincher. Seduction is nefarious because it's only for a while. It's not honest. It's not because you want to feel good. Seduction is always there for purposes of control. Now, what I wanted to do is just move things a little bit toward the inward direction now. And just a little bit, because somebody once said, well, Aristo, I noticed he chews on the edges of the big picture. And in a way, he's right. The information I'm providing is practical in a certain sense, but it's not free. I'm not demanding anything, but you need to contribute your own attention and your own discernment and your own effort in thinking about these things and asking the question, okay, how can this fit into my life now? And to observe feedback from your life as the answer to that question. So if we want to be outwardly oriented, all we need to do is enter into a feedback relationship with life. The outside is part of that feedback, and the inside is the other part of that feedback. So then we're in the center. If we're open to feedback from our environment and base our conclusions on our own hearts, and our own desires, then we're good ways into becoming more sovereign. So I'm going to say something that I have no basis for, but call it a personal intuition, you know, this high strangeness or whatever. A lot of channelers kind of talk this way. I'm always kind of reluctant because I want my readers to be discerning, my listeners to be discerning and observant and critical. I want them to be critical of it. So I'm just going to say that I have a certain intuition. We talked a long time ago about the reverse rapture and what this may be. And I take the opportunity to talk about this because there's a religious area. There's religion in the air, for better or worse. That topic has been bandied about. So there was this idea that God is going to come down with a mothership or angels or whatever and take all the good people up, so then the planet can be fucked in peace. And of course, I think that's a very cruel joke of a prophecy for an interpretation. This is not what divinity would do. However, if you look at it the other way, what if God came down and took out all the bad people and left so the earth can heal?
That's what I want to happen.
Exactly. Now, I believe your sentiment is coming from a true source of sincerity, of prayer. It's an intuition. It's something that you haven't let go of no matter what the appearances are. It's just that you can't see how it's going to happen. Well, first of all, the Matrix itself has deleted all references to such a possibility in any human psyche that gives credit to the Matrix at all. If you're a normal human being who considers the Matrix its father and mother and teacher and salutes the Matrix every day as you get up in the morning, and pledges allegiance to the Matrix under whatever God your religious propaganda has taught you to worship. I'm just being funny here, so don't take it. But then you're not going to find the solution. You have to step outside of the box of the Matrix, and you can do that not physically, but up here, because the guide is in here. It's in your heart, and also your body, your sensations. If you feel down, there's a reason for it. Something in the Matrix is probably causing it, because that's where your mind has you. So, inverse rapture, in my honest opinion, if you feel it passionately, is not a falsehood. Anything you feel passionately as true is meaningful, because the world is meant, we have this instinct as human beings. We want to believe there's purpose to life.
Yeah.
We want to believe there's meaning to life. Okay, I call it a spiritual instinct. I don't think it's delusional at all. It's very similar to our instinct to breathe. And if we stop breathing, somebody's going to say, you shouldn't need breath. You should just be able to live in a vacuum.
You should never feel anger.
How about, there are people who say you shouldn't eat. Breatharians. Let's go the other way. So you should be able to live on breath. Well, at this point, I have a stomach and it's there, and it's going to be hard to convince that stomach to just give up its dynamic, its structural purpose. So, spiritually, soul-wise, however you want to call it, human beings are purposeful beings. We will not have civilization. We will not have creativity. We will not have art. We wouldn't have spirituality at all if we didn't have a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose is tied to a sense of meaning, because purpose is not blind. If you have a sense of purpose without a sense of meaning, then you're a slave, because it's not your purpose. It's somebody else's being imposed on you. So thus we are programmable, not because they've taken away our sense of purpose. They do that only if they can't control it, but because they've taken away our sense of meaning. In my honest opinion, your sense of meaning is the most valuable thing you have. It is one of my greatest principles to honor and hold on to my sense of meaning. It defines me. What is meaningful to me? So when somebody tells me that, okay, yeah, life has meaning, but, it's just wishful thinking, I'm saying, no, man, it's my spiritual instinct. Just like my survival instinct. Should I just fucking kill myself because there's no logical, objective reason why I should be alive? That's what they're trying to tell us. You're all fucking eaters. You don't deserve to be alive. You're cockroaches. There's no logic. Our computer told us that there's no logical reason why you should be alive. No, my survival, and it's just a survival instinct that can be reprogrammed. No, it's not just a survival instinct. We have the chakras from top to bottom, and they all represent harmonics of life. So the lowest chakra is associated with survival, but you can't cut it off from the other ones. So my sense of meaning is really at the lowest chakra is survival. My sense of meaning at the next chakra is pleasure. My sense of meaning is grounded sovereignty. They call it ego. I call it grounded sovereignty of individual presence. You know, ego is when the other guy programs it, and it's a bunch of conditioned responses. That's when it's ego. When it's based on my own sense of meaning as a sovereign individual, then it is what keeps me together in this world. Without ego, your sense of purpose could not operate. Your sense of meaning would have no context. You'd be just a flying little cloud above your head, and you could only live so long. Your heart is the center of it all. It's love. It's the interconnectedness of everything. That is the greatest sense of meaning there is. Love is the greatest sense of meaning there is. And it must be lived and embodied in relation to all the other dynamics, top to bottom. So if you have a sense of meaning that tells you that the most logical course of events is for the bad guys to be taken away, then at worst, it is incomplete. Or you simply haven't gone deep enough to understand how this sense of meaning operates and what resources it gives you, because our sense of meaning is not just a goal. We talked about it last week with principles and the means and the end. It's the means justify the end. The means lead you to the end. The path leads you to the destination. The destination does not define the path. You can go to any destination by a zillion and one paths. You can go around, you can go straight, you can go, what is the most meaningful path to you? If you go to let's say we want the earth to have less humans. There's too many humans on the planet. So that's the destination. Now the heartless mode.
That's the psychopathic vision.
Exactly. However,
in my opinion.
Yes, it may be, however, true. However, if you give prosperity to people, it turns out they don't have as many children. So we can go through a gradual population reduction, and people can live more harmoniously in their environment, because it's not that we have too many people. It's that if we keep reproducing under psychopathic rule with suffering and people having kids to help pay the bills and I don't know what, then in the future there's going to be too many people on the planet, too many suffering people. Now the earth can sustain it. But if we stabilize the population, I mean, literally, I read a study that said any given area, the earth can sustain 12 billion people, and then the population levels off and even decreases naturally. Any animal on a limited place, like deer on an island, reproduce, and then their population stabilizes. They don't reproduce to the point of eating up everything and falling off into the ocean when they're stuck on an island. There is a natural feedback. They don't tell us about this because their motives are not that. There's too many people with too many demands that we cannot control. We know this already. So the point is, you do not want your destination to be killing everybody. Some people do. If it's meaningful, you can do it in a natural way. You can still reach the destination. The point is that you can reach the destination of reverse rapture if you understand how rapture operates. Excuse me. If you understand how God operates. You cannot understand how God operates by means of religious dogma, in my honest opinion. I don't care what anybody says, because this detracts from the mystics who have not been trained in religious dogma to get their revelations. No mystic, no saint, even Christian saints, you will rarely, either there will be a disposition of the soul to open up to God naturally, according to Christian whatever, in a saint, or prayer, or a certain set of practices. So just going to church is not going to guarantee anybody going to church, listening to the commandments, paying your tithes or whatever. Otherwise, every fucking fundamentalist would be a saint with visions and glories and prophetic whatevers, and that's not the case.
No, it's not.
So we cannot understand the concept of rapture by the literal interpretation of any holy book. We need to understand the deeper meaning. We need to see how spirituality operates in our lives in the fine details. Most people cannot do that. Most people do not have the discernment because they still allow a lot of space to simplify their minds because it's comfortable to fall asleep and think you're awake. You know, there is that deception that human beings have, that they can be completely asleep and think they're awake. They can be dreaming. And so people who believe they're awake need to pinch themselves sometimes. And if they don't, life will come and pinch them for them. Sometimes that happens. We call it a wake-up call. And it's a common term. So I'm not really speaking out of my head here. So I'm not going to tell people what this rapture thing really is, because you cannot convey these things. You have to get people to ponder, to come up with their own intuitions. We've been raised, especially Westerners, in a culture of instant microwave dinners. And that's how we seem to want everything given to us. Give us the nice video with the nice sound and the nice whatever, a few words. Don't make me think too much, you know, something simple that relates to my program, basically. And that in itself is a program. We need to get rid of it. And it's scary as hell, because what's going to be left? That's what the psychos try to convince us. If you get rid of us, you won't be able to live. You need us. Well, first of all, if God is going to come down and take them away, why is God pulling on the one end and who's pulling on the other? We are. Because we're the ones deep down inside who are afraid of what are we going to do without our psychopaths? What are we going to do without the system, not a system? What, you know, and some people are in denial and saying, yeah, oh, we need to get rid of money and all will be fine. No, we need to get rid of our attitudes. You know, we need to get rid of the wrong attitude that we're praying for God to take away the psychopaths, and we're holding on to them from the other end and not even realizing where we're dependent on them. So, and that is part and parcel of discovering our own strength. So we don't know, and this is what I've been expressing. It's like, look, the important thing is to discover your strength. Before you confront anybody, you need to assess how strong you are. If you don't even, we talked about the analogy of David and Goliath. And that Goliath comes over and David hits him, and yes, and God helped him. But you know, first of all, David didn't belong to any bloodlines, as far as I know. So second of all, nobody believed he would win. Third of all, he didn't carry any military weaponry, so he didn't fight the enemy on the enemy's terms. Third of all, the enemy underestimated Goliath, so he took off his helmet, because they had nose guards and everything, so there's no way a freaking little pebble would have done anything. And he laughed at him, and then one little tiny sling, and David would be playing around with a sling. He didn't use it to kill people. Maybe he killed a bird and ate it occasionally. But I'm saying that our strengths are often what we take for granted. Our strengths are often our very cliches that have been stripped naked of their meaning by the psychopaths that have taught us to deride ourselves, that have taught us to slap ourselves silly, to humiliate ourselves, to not honor ourselves. We've been humbled by the psychopaths into degrading our own image, which is in the image and likeness of the divine. And thus the psychopaths have taught us to blaspheme in this way. Even the fundamentalists, especially the fundamentalists, who deride human nature, who consider human nature trash. How can you blaspheme against God when you are in the image and likeness of God? So, and we talked about that again. So your strengths are often in the very corny, cliche things that the whole culture has programmed you to disregard. So then the culture comes and offers you what's cool. It defines coolness. It defines the trend. This is especially true for younger people who seek to forge an identity separate from the older generation. And even when the identity is one of a revolutionary, they're twisting the whole concept even there. The need to belong doesn't need to be sacrificed, because every sovereign individual is part of a family. Every individual who honors their true self, and I don't mean spiritual in any New Age sense, I mean your cliche human individual characteristics, that which you can admire in yourself. Are you a stubborn person? Are you a loving person? Are you a caring person? Are you an asshole whenever somebody gets into your face? There is strength in all of that. Are you a creative person? Do you admire creativity? Are you a well-meaning person or a not so well-meaning person? It all depends how meaningful it is to you. Really, because sarcastic and cynical people, that's one thing they lack. I feel sorry for them because they have no meaning in their lives. Otherwise, they wouldn't be cynical. Sometimes cynicism is a good thing. It wakes people up because it tells them that they're taking their own being for granted. So when somebody really is cynical and you see the stark contrast of, oh, am I that bad? Well, not quite, but I'm getting there. So it's a wake-up call sometimes. But in our culture, it's really a slam into greater degradation. So don't let them call you eaters. You're not the eater, the other guy is. They are eaters. They're the parasites. They're the ones that the rapture is going to come to get. But the first principle is letting go of them. You don't need to let go of them by pushing them away. You just need to focus on your own sense of reality. You don't need to get out of the matrix. The doorway out of the matrix is your own sense of meaning. So you need to uncover that. You don't have to be, your way out of the matrix is your principles, honesty, all of that. Plus, all of the things that you honor, like, the biblical stuff that's not religiously dogmatic, is your way out of the matrix. It's just that the matrix itself is attacking that. And so discernment is exercised through your interactions with the matrix, because you need to learn, or you are learning, to turn the tables. That's what we do. We turn the tables because we're the ones who are complex. We're the ones that truly, because if we were that simple, we'd be in the concentration camps already. Okay, we all know that the plan is to depopulate the planet. Why are we still here? Because the plan is complicated and needs very careful. No, no, no. Because we're not where they want us to be. And that means we still have a choice to not go where they want us to be. And that means, yes, we still have a series of decisions that can take us even further from where they want us to be. And maybe over the horizon, we can start seeing where we want to be, because we haven't yet a clear vision of that. The baby is a baby, but what you want is an adult. You want the baby all grown up to be able to act, to do something. It's not just a baby. Until you nurture the baby into at least teenagehood, it won't be able to act and contribute. It's something you need to protect. It's not something that actually can do something for you. So we are still in the act of raising the baby. In my honest opinion, until we fulfill that act, the best we can hope for is to slip through the cracks of the system. And that may sound like defeatist, but instead what it sounds like is giving ourselves space and time for preparation, because as long as the system can't subdue us here, and even in the body, it cannot implement whatever plans it desires. Any faction in the system, whatever, across the board. It doesn't matter who is who and what is what. What matters is us. And we will find ourselves slowly letting go of the matrix, because we're the ones holding on to it. And when that starts happening, we can start feeling fear and panic, because the matrix is going to say, oh, you're all going to die now, you're letting go. Don't you ever see, haven't we ever seen in the news, whenever people start getting uppity, there's another war coming up, another fucking disease popping up, and the New Agers always get Nibiru, or the ETs are going to blast us, or this is going to happen. And we've seen all of this. Another martial law is coming. Yeah, it's the terrorist tactic. And it never happens because they don't want to play all their cards. They're stingy. It only happens when they're scared. They're only transferring their fear onto us, which is actually the fear our shadow is trying to make us accept. When we accept it, we take a deep breath and we let it flow through our bodies. We let the electricity of fear flow, and we extract all the ideas around it. I'm afraid the Kabbalah is going to kill me. No, that's not the truth. I'm afraid, period. That's the truth. The Kabbalah is going to kill me is an assumption. So if we can make that separation between the actual emotion, the feeling, the energy, and the idea, trying to mold it into a purposeful manipulative program, then we are halfway to healing. And we should keep ourselves busy doing that in feedback with our environment and listen to the meaningful voice within us, because we need to get on board in helping God initiate the reverse rapture. There will be a reverse rapture. We don't know how it's going to happen, and it's not DTs who are going to do it, because they're way over their heads as far as earth density is concerned. Otherwise, they would have done it, and it's logical. I mean, well, why don't they do anything? Because they can't. They're way over their heads. They only know control systems. They only know molded realities that are simplified and logical, and they don't relate to the complexity of the feminine. They talk about it theoretically, but I don't feel it. I don't feel the feminine within this whole ET aura thing. I only feel a shadow or a blue light of the feminine, or a far away something idea like a holographic projection. I don't feel the down-to-earth dark womb of sensuality within the so-called New Age spiritual ideologies that I don't even know if they originated with sincere people, and if they're not fabricated in some think tank, or if they were sincere, then they've been infiltrated by fabrications in some think tank. We know this has happened, and we need to consider it. And I know it's a bitch that your belief system is a product of the think tank assembly line, but your heart is not, and your soul is not, and your true being never has been. It is in the image and likeness, let's not say creator, let's not say God, of causality. It is in the image and likeness of the foundation and essence of existence and the truth of existence. Otherwise, it would not be meaningful to say that. It's meaningful for me to say that, and I believe everybody in their hearts feels some sense of meaning, that that existence is purposeful, just as they are purposeful. And so I ask people to connect to their inner sense of meaning, because that is the first step in allowing God to, or whatever you want to call that causal force of essence, to initiate the reverse rapture, which is what we really need, and to do it in the right way. This is not about punishment or taking them away to some other dimension. This is about healing. What we're taking away is the infection, the cancer, the program. It's not even living, this thing. The psychopaths are programmed. They're infected. They're possessed, or whatever you want to call it. So that's the rapture. God is not coming to take away people. People are not the problem. The problem is a spiritual problem, as some say. And I'm not saying demonize it, Satan, or whatever. I'm saying that the attitude is going to be released, because love is going to replace it. Where this comes, love comes in the back door. The thief in the night leaves from the front door, or the back door, or whatever, and love comes in the other way. We are not going to be abandoned in a vacuum. The vibration is going to change. So when you release one thing that you think you need, you will always have something else that's way better than you ever imagined. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aristo. And the title that I came up with as you're talking is Our Sense of Meaning and the Reverse Rapture.
Very good, Ron. You've gotten good at this. I'm really glad.
I pick out keywords and I take notes. When people see me looking down, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.